The fact that Maki vs Toji at this point in the series is still a point of contention might actually just be funny. We all know of the famous narrator's statement after Maki's awakening during the Zen'in Clan massacre. A warrior equal to Toji Zenin had finally been born, this being Maki as at that point in time. Prior to Maki's awakening, there was no debate. If she had possibly ever found herself in a confrontation with Toji, she would have been cooked. But after her awakening, things actually changed. In my opinion, for a while now, things haven't exactly been as contentious as they once were. Why don't we start with the comparisons? For starters, Maki began to give off the exact same energy that Toji did, giving her father and a couple of others in the clan deja vu. One member of the clan even goes on to state that just like how Maki would destroy the Zen'in clan, Toji could have easily done so if he pleased. At that point, immediately after the Zen'in clan's massacre and the defeat of her cousin Naoya, Maki was stated to be Toji's equal. But the thing is, if those two had fought at that exact point in time, Toji would have claimed the victory. And that's simply because Maki's mindset was not where it needed to be able to fully utilize her Tojified body. It would only be after Maki's change in mindset when she truly became free in her second encounter with Naoya and her interactions with Sumo and Daido that she would gain this equality with Toji physically. After the sumo, she begins to understand more of herself. It starts off with her being able to sense variations in the atmosphere like temperature and pressure, thus allowing her to effectively sense things like cost energy without necessarily sensing the cost energy. This is the exact thing Toji does that enables him exercise curses. From there, Maki comes to find out of her healing factor, though it's not as fast as RCT. Any form of healing is always going to be a big plus for fighters in general. Beyond that, Maki comes to realize that she's immune to most domain expansions, the exceptions being open barrier domains that target inanimate objects. It's thanks to this immunity to domain expansions that she's able to exercise her cousin Naoya with such ease. With Toji, we never actually saw him utilize this heavenly restriction form of healing, but we did see him show some level of immunity to barrier techniques. Dagon's domain doesn't necessarily count because Megumi countered the sure hit of that domain with that of his, but back in Hidden Inventory, when faced with the simple domain of one of Geto's curses, Toji uses the inverted spear of heaven to instantly nullify the can't miss attacks. At this point, I think it would be right to compare the feats these two characters have shown, at least up to this point in the story. Toji, with a well-crafted plan, was able to put both Gojo and Geto on their knees. He made quick work of Dagon in his own domain and then he was able to beat Megumi, but that's not really much of a feat. Maki, on the other hand, had just previously assassinated the Zen'in clan and now exercised Cost Naoya, a curse who, if given a rank, would have undeniably been special grade. When it comes to the assassination of the clan, there isn't really much to factor in there because Toji has already been stated to be capable of pulling off a very similar feat, and if we are to rightfully scale Cost Naoya and the Cost Spirit Dagon, it seems Naoya would have the edge. When you think about it, Naobito was able to absolutely pummel Dagon in base without his domain expansion, whereas the version of Maki capable of destroying the Zen'in clan while teamed up with Noritoshi was unable to put an end to Cost Naoya in base. When you then factor in the short hits of their domain expansion, you'll come to see that Cost Naoya is a bit too broken for the likes of Dagon to handle. But could Maki have pulled off the exact same feat? Could she have defeated Gojo and Geto back in Hidden Inventory? Well, it's contentious. It's not such for Geto, it's more so a thing with Gojo. You see, if it's Maki with her current toolkit, that being the Soul Split Katana as her only cost to, then she'd definitely be able to stop Geto. But with Gojo, things will turn out a bit differently, and that's because she doesn't have any known counter to something like the Infinity. The only reason Toji was able to press, stab and damage Gojo was because of the Inverted Spear of Heaven, a cost to that sort of nullifies cost techniques. Without the Inverted Spear of Heaven, it's debatable whether Toji could have bypassed Gojo's Infinity, but like I said, it's debatable. You see, Gojo from back in Hidden Inventory didn't have the Infinity active 247, meaning with a sneak attack or even when faced with a character far faster, the Infinity can be bypassed. Maki's use of the Soul Split Katana would not be to her advantage in this matchup because the Cost 2 is imbued with an innate cost technique, thus it possesses cost energy. Since it possesses cost energy, it can be sensed by the 6 eyes, meaning Gojo can quickly activate the Infinity to counter attacks from the 2. But if Maki goes into the fight without her cost 2, then her chances are improved. With Toji and Geto, we saw that it was very difficult for Gojo Gojo to keep up with Toji in terms of speed. But let's not forget that Toji meticulously crafted a plan to wear Gojo down for this very situation. Though Gojo was not at his best, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that Maki could find a way around his techniques and come out on top. So with what we've established so far and everything we've covered, everything with Toji and Maki leads us to imply that those two are relative, if not equal. What a lot of the fan base fails to consider is the fact that Maki has continued leveling up, whereas Toji remained a constant. A lot of people think Maki peaked when she became equal to Toji, but her feats afterwards would beg to differ. I don't believe there is anyone who would argue that Toji vs Sukuna in Shibuya would go in Toji's favor, because that's where my next point lies. You see, Maki was able to throw hands with 15 fingers Sukuna. Granted, she was aided by Yuji, but Yuji more so served as support. Also, I'll acknowledge the fact that this version of Sukuna was stated to have his output limited to 10%. However, using context from other translations, his output refers to that of his course technique, so his speed and probably his durability and a couple of other stats aren't really held back. Yet Maki was able to keep up with this version of Sukuna pretty well. She even landed a couple of really nice hits in. If this is still not enough to prove the growing gap in the physical prowess of those two, then just consider everything Maki has been doing more recently in the manga. Maki stabbed Sukuna straight in the heart, very similar to what Toji did to Teen Gojo. Granted, this is not a show of strength, but what happens after, however, is Maki was seen throwing Sukuna about, and her physical strength was acknowledged by Sukuna to be one superior to that of Yuji. Yuji being the poster boy for physical strength in Jujutsu Kaisen. Beyond just that, thanks to her advanced sensory, she is seen dodging attacks from Sukuna, cleave and dismantle being invisible attacks. Though I believe that's something that Toji should also be able to sense. But it doesn't end there for Maki. Maki survived getting hit by a black flash from Sukuna. Though it's possible that it was not her regular healing and it was by an external factor, that is still not a feat that should be underlooked. When Sukuna got hit by a black flash, she got knocked out momentarily. Maki also got knocked out, but her recovery time is actually somewhat comparable to that of Sukuna's. If it were Toji, on the other hand, we don't know how it would have gone. And let's not forget that the gang was planning to have Maki take on Kenjaku prior to setting Takaba up for the task. The fact that they were willing to send her alone speaks to her strength, even though they were obviously planning for it to come out as an ambush, since Maki can't be sensed, because she possessed no cost energy, so there was nothing for Kenjaku to sense. Everything Maki has done so far in the manga sort of just blows out the narrator's statement of the equality out of proportion. She's faced and survived far deadlier encounters than anything we know Toji had. Besides Toji's masterful intellect, there is one other thing he has Maki beat at, and that's the fact that he possesses multiple course tools unlike Maki. We've seen Toji proficiently use the Playful Cloud, the Inverted Spear of Heaven, even Maki's Soul Split Katana, the Chain of 1,000 Miles, and he probably still has a couple of others. The Chain of 1,000 Miles isn't on its own effective for attacks, it's more so used for combination attacks. The Soul Split Katana, Maki possesses it as well, so that isn't really going to be much of a factor. From back in Hidden Inventory, we know that Toji wasn't the one in possession of the Playful Cloud, so that doesn't technically count as well. This leaves Toji with his regular sword, his gun, and the Inverted Spear of Heaven, though he probably has a couple of others, but we can't speculate. With Maki's feats in the exchange event, there is no way anyone still expects a bullet to be effective against her. A regular sword will be ineffective, it's basically just a watered down version of the katana she possesses. But then there's the most important thing, the Inverted Spear of Heaven. It's really funny because Toji's prized Inverted Spear of Heaven, that it's honestly the ultimate debuff to any sorcerer, will just prove to be useless against Maki, because Maki possesses the exact same body that he does, leaving her with no cost energy and by extension no cost techniques to nullify with the Inverted Spear of Heaven. And so the Inverted Spear of Heaven will unironically also not be a factor, except if you want to reach and say it would nullify the Soul Split Katana's ability to negate durability, but at that point that just sounds desperate. If those two were to ever meet on battlefield somehow, Maki's advantage is just far outclassed that of his. Her feats lead us to believe that she's physically stronger, her speed implies that she's considerably faster, but when it comes to the brains, Toji obviously has that in the bag. But sometimes tactics prove to be useless when you face an opponent who's just a better version of you. I believe Maki was crafted out to be Toji's full potential, nature, and I doubt we are done seeing just what she's truly capable of. I believe we should just consider that statement of equality as being as of the time. It's much like how Gojo was the strongest at the time and the title has been claimed by another. Obviously, a lot of people wouldn't agree with this, and I can also get where you're coming from, because I once viewed the narrator's statement in a kind of one-dimensional manner. The way the narrator phrased this statement makes a lot of people believe that Maki had peaked at that very point in time, but her fight later on in the story would only make that statement inconsistent. There was probably more to Toji that I could have covered, so if you have something you'd like to add, then you can put it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, then please feel free to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with the channel, then by all means feel free to subscribe.